Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply. This video is to bring you a closer look at the American Lock A5200KZ solid steel zero-bitted padlock. This is a order of a box of 6. This client ordered 6. Okay. This video will serve as a visual review of the padlock, dimensional review. We're going to go over supporting documentation as it goes along with this. Now, when they say zero-bitted, it's actually not zero-bitted. This would be like one-bitted. The reason that they do, in zero-bit, and this could be zero-bitted, in fact. A zero in the pin lengths has a definite length that may or may not create an actual cut in the key. In certain systems, a zero creates very, very little cut in the key. I don't know if that is very, very little cut in the key of American, because I don't really have their depth and spacing chart, but we can dive into that. That's if that's what they call zero-bitted, then great. Now you're not going to see it with just key blanks, because what happens then is I can pull the key out, right? Well, with a blank, with a key that has no cuts, it might likely fall out if I just did it that way. Not that it would fall out, but it would come out very easily. So they will always send with some sort of very shallow cut, like one-bitted, or maybe zero-bitted, depending. It also can create trouble in certain systems when you have, I can think of, here's an example. If you were to order a cylinder that has 2 shear lines, like a Corbin master ring or Corbin Russwin master ring, if you were to zero-bit that at both shear lines, you're going to get the plug and then the master ring sleeve moving differently, and it might confuse some people. So at least giving it some shallow cut on the key will prevent that unintentional rotation. Anyway, this is what the A5200 looks like. Steel padlock. This base model includes the APTC-12 cylinder, boron alloy shackle, key retaining with 2 keys per lock. I don't think this is key retaining. What I mean to say is this is not key retaining, because I can remove the key. I'm sorry, I misread that. It's non-key retaining. I thought that said key retaining. Absolutely non-key retaining, because I can remove the key in both the locked and unlocked condition. Let's take some basic dimensional properties of this item. They've got the body size at 1 3/4 inches. Right on. Yeah. They say 1 3/4 inches wide as well. So height, maybe just heavy on that. 3/4 inch. Right on. Shackle length, they have it at 1 1/8 inches. And that's a reference to the base, to the apex of the shackle. And that's 1 1/8 inches. They have a inside dimension on the shackle of about 3/4, and then the shackle diameter at 5/16. Let's take a look at that. 0.309. So yeah, basically 5/16, 0.309. Now, when it comes to padlocks, in the world of padlocks, having things of relatively low security cylinder construction like this are certainly very good, and they're very common. You'll also find the other end. Well, this is certainly a commercial caliber padlock. There would be, of course, less expensive, lower security bit key, not bit key, maybe double bitted. Would be the term to use, a double-bitted key that would be a very low sort of security. The other end of that spectrum is to do padlocks with high security cylinders that have very well-established high cylinder integrity against drilling, sawing, picking, impressioning, general tomfoolery with. Restriction to key blanks, so that what I'm driving at is you can get padlocks with extreme high security that will incorporate UL 437 compliance. And what's nice about those other key blanks is they are substantially more difficult to bypass the cylinder than something like this would be. And I'm no expert when it comes to cylinder bypass. But the point of the matter is they don't really worry so much about those super high security locks. They don't worry as much, although they do shroud those shackles, etc. But, you know, a pneumatic die grinder is going to cut through stuff. The point of the high security stuff, if the padlock's intact, they're really sure that no one got in there because of some of these high security padlocks or cylinder construction that people, the number of people that can bypass those is an incredibly small number of people that would be able to bypass it. So the integrity of the padlock, they'll know, is intact as long as the padlock's hanging there. If the padlock's been cut, then they know that they've got a problem. And the phrase that I read recently was, you know, criminals don't pick high security cylinders. They use bolt cutters. So, you know, that's the reasoning behind a high security padlock. Because if it's there, you're probably good. This may not be so impossible to pick even for someone with very little developed impressioning or picking skills such as myself. Meaning you're not picking it, a client comes to you and says, I need keys for this. So you have to open the cylinder and you would draw on your locksmithing skill and talent to do so. So let's switch to the screen view and take a look at the extended description of this item along with the any supporting documents we can come up with. So this is the item here that we are looking at. Our extended description information down below talks about the cylinder. Non-key retaining will include 2 keys. You can order the material keyed from the factory however you like, so not a problem there. Available with or without a zinc-plated chain. That's an option. Hardened bodies and shackles for extra strength and durability. Corrosion-resistant solid brass cylinder inside. It's not all brass. The housing and the plug will be brass, but the pins may be brass, but nonetheless, corrosion-resistant would be an appropriate term. Case-hardened steel cover protects the cylinder. You may have noticed that there is a riveted plate inside of the preparation in the body itself that covers that cylinder. Disassembly would be possible when you have the padlock open. Chrome-plated stainless steel double ball locking mechanism used for high commercial and industrial applications. Let's click on the link to the manufacturer's page here with the intent of opening up the product catalog, or at least the most current catalog that we have. A5200, that's going to certainly be easy to find. It's a 5-pin cylinder. Shackle height 1 1/8. Be seen in this, on this page with other units as well. As we scroll through, I don't see any other reference to the A5200 that A5200 series body. They tell us the dimensions here. Also a reference to some of their security hasps in terms of what padlocks are compatible with those. And also in the page you can see a reference to the zinc chain option that's here. Okay. Zinc chain option. Now, on that manufacturer's page, there's also a lock service manual. So let's go ahead and open up that document. A5200. Yeah, this is definitely a chart in terms of the available parts. So we've got A5200 here, and give you a part number for the shackle, the spring, the actuator. non-key retaining. NRK, I'm going to go with non-key retaining and retaining key, NRK. I don't see a reference to that, but most certainly the actuator is going to be either key retaining or non-key retaining. And then there'll be a ball bearing that's down in the body of the unit as well. And that's just the only place where this shows up, with the exception of the description on how they show the actuator for the cylinder. And what happens here is when you unlock the padlock and look down into the space that the shackle resides when the padlock is locked, you are certainly going to see the Phillips screw that will hold the cylinder in. And this talks about how the actuator allows the cylinder to turn and will restrict it when it's simply a key retaining option. And I think what we'll do at this point is switch back to the camera view, and we'll get a little bit more curious, a little bit more intimately familiar with this padlock in terms of how that cylinder comes out. And we'll talk about the actuator. And if you kind of just keep your eyes or in your mind's eye memorize this quarter pie shape scenario. Let's switch back to the camera view. Okay, so as far as I know, when I've spoken to padlock manufacturers, these holes have things to do with the manufacturing process, nothing post-manufacturing. So in order to get that cylinder out or to see the other parts, you've got to unlock the padlock. Down in there is going to be a screw that you can see tucked behind that ball bearing. And when the so what happens is when the shackle is fully in place, the ball bearing that you see there cannot move, just like it clearly moved by gravity. Okay. Anyway, that's how that works. I'm going to stick my number 2 Phillips down there, and we're going to get that screw taken out. As soon as I do, that rivet starts to move, or that, that binding post. Won't take many revolutions, and that will certainly come out. A little bit of Loctite on the end there, which is nice. Our rivet will come out, or our binding post. This security plate, that's going to come out as well. Okay, kind of fits in there just like that. At that point, our cylinder absolutely will come out. Okay. Now, remember that actuator before? That one's 180 degrees, so the non-key retaining is 180 degrees. You could certainly change the key retaining to non-key retaining, etc., by swapping out the actuator. So at this point, what do we have here? We have a little cylinder is what we have. A C-clip on the back end. You would be able to rekey this to suit your requirements, assuming you had a pin kit for American lock and that you had blanks. Wouldn't be a trouble at all to make that happen. Nope, wouldn't be a trouble at all. Those pins are held captive in there. So what we have there is I was unaware that these pins can be loaded from the bottom of the cylinder. So when you insert the key, you're going to be able to operate that. But when you rotate the key 180 degrees, the bottom pins are going to be able to come right out of your cylinder plug. You'll be able to pull those pins out. The key will come out, and you'll be able to reload it once you stick a new cylinder inside of there. So as long as you don't do what I just did and rotate the cylinder past 180 degrees, no pins will fall out. Although it was very interesting, when I took that apart, it had in it 2 spool pins, and it took me a couple of moments to shim it open. It had in there 2 spool top drivers. You're not going to be able to see that, but if you know what a spool driver is, it had 2 spool top drivers, 2 drivers, and 3 serrated drivers, which was kind of cool. And I wasn't expecting that, but I can tell you that it did increase the amount of time it took for me to get the cylinder shimmed open. So yeah, just if you were to rotate that past 180 degrees, it'd be super simple. But when it's all contained, there's no trouble with it at all. So putting the cylinder back together is just going to be a matter of placing the cylinder back down into the hole. It'll only seat one way because the feature to the cylinder plug itself, with that half-round prep that you can see right here, okay, and then the actuator that we've been talking about, it only goes in one way. Your steel security plate can only go in one way. Your binder post can only go in one way so that it's flush. It was not going in because I needed to adjust the position of the cylinder plug to mate with the actuator. Then that cap goes in. Our binder post will fit all the way in. We will drop our screw. We'll hold that material on at the bottom so it doesn't fall out like it just did. Okay, and then our Phillips. It's good that that Loctite is on there. You can tell that the screw tightens very well. Then at that point, you're back in business. Okay. Was pleased to see those serrated pins and those spool pins. Let's talk about that for a moment. So with spool pins and with serrated pins, basically, because of how they are prepped or notched, they make it such that when you are trying to pick and you try to move the plug rotationally, because of those preparations around the body of the pin itself, spool or serrations, it will give you false readings in the sense that you think that you've created a shear line, but you really haven't, because that serration is causing the pin to move. Or in the steps of shimming it, my shim is getting locked into the spool preparation, giving me a false reading. So the bottom line is, while it does not by any means defeat the ability to shim or pick the cylinder open, it does, I think, for anyone involved, add either a small amount of time or just some more time, or maybe rendering it almost not pickable. So it's really good that they have those in there, because I was not expecting to see that on a relatively inexpensive padlock. Okay. Now, there is a link below this video to the manufacturer's page, where you can pull up not only all of the American Lock products that we sell, but also a link to the manufacturer's website, as well as a link to the full product catalog that we were looking at before. The name American Lock is quite synonymous with padlocks. I would not hesitate in suggesting that you review their product line. I use their products personally, and I can attest to the high performance of some of their items. Others I can't, because I've never used it. Very smart, simple, straightforward lock to use. Any questions on the A5200 or any other American Lock product, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you.